Hello there, Michael Vaughan. Come in, Michael Vaughan, with one of the most impressive shelving units I think I've ever seen.
Yes, it's the modern world of Zoom, isn't it? If you're not doing a Zoom call with a shelf in the background, you're not living. But I always do it, and I remind myself that bottle of red in the top left. It's a beauty, and I've no idea why I haven't drunk it. I like your shot. I like that picture you've got behind you, Mark. I don't know quite what it is, but I like the piece of art you've got.
I'm very cultured, and actually over that shoulder up there, that's
Mm.
that's the goalkeeping legend of the 1980s, Mark Durden-Smith, right there. Unbeaten season. they,
Letting
they,
them in.
they put the big guy in goal. It was absolutely typical. But listen, look, actually, one quick question before we get on to what is a very busy summer of cricket. When are you going to drink that bottle of red that you've kind of got in a special place on your shelving unit?
Well, I did a Zoom 3 days ago, and I promised to myself that I would drink it, and I haven't. So I am now. You're going to be the instigator of me drinking. It's a rather large bottle of red. It probably doesn't look it on the Zoom, but it's a rather large one. But because it's you, I'm going to get it off the shelf as soon as we've finished, and I'm going to put it in a nice decanter. I'm going to slurp it this week.
Yeah, I wouldn't do it now. It's 11:03 in the morning when we're recording this. So just maybe stay till midday before you open up that kind of side of things in your life. But listen, great to have you on board and this Zoom meeting. But it is an extremely congested fixture schedule that England have over the upcoming summer. What are you most looking forward to?
Whenever India are in town, it's special. The Indian side, in my opinion, at the minute are the best. Across all the formats, they should be winning pretty much everything. They haven't won the World Cup, obviously, since 2011 back in India when Sachin was still playing. They've disappointed since then. They haven't won a T20 World Cup since the first one. So you feel across all the formats, they've got more tools, more ingredients with the set of players than most. They've got probably a second and third team that could challenge many of the teams around the world. The one place that they've struggled in is England. They went to Australia and won. Remarkable victory when they had so many injuries. Were pretty much playing their second 11 in that last game at the Gabba. Australia don't lose at the Gabba. Well, the Indians beat them and won the series. So you think that if they come to England and beat England here in a 5-test match series, which it is, they would be the team of this era. It's the only thing really that they haven't done in test match cricket. And then they've got a T20 World Cup in their own backyard a couple of months after. They'll be favourites to win that with the T20 tools that they have and all the players, and no idea how they'll get down to their final 11. But with the amount of people that play cricket in India, let's be honest, Mark, they should be the best. The billions and billions of them just wake up in the morning and just want to watch cricket, play cricket, study cricket, talk about cricket, read about cricket. So India should be the best team in the world. But yeah, India, that's what I'm looking forward to this summer.
So how do you assess England's tour to India? Because it started so in the Test series, started so promisingly and then went particularly pear-shaped. So is playing on home soil this summer as big an advantage to England as playing on home soil in the winter was to India?
Yeah, you could argue that. I think India are a damn sight closer to winning in our backyard than we are to winning in their backyard. The last time we were there, 2015, I think we lost 4-0. All the talk then was, by the next time we go back, we'll be a better team and we'll be better prepared and we'll have better players of spin. Well, as soon as the ball started to spin in the series in India, England just didn't really have many answers. Joe Root was a standout player. He was in fine form. The rest of them, a lot of younger players, so you can't be too critical. They're kind of learning the trade in Test match cricket. But they did get exposed. And when you think they batted first on 3 of the 4 occasions as well, which was so important, and still got an absolute hammering. I mean, because of the way England play, and it's always quite entertaining. They kind of got back into the Test match, the day-night game where Joe Root got his 5 for 8. I mean, Joe Root getting 5 for 8, that tells you what that pitch was like. It was an absolute disgrace. But and then England go out to bat, and within the first over, they've lost 2 wickets. It's like, oh, there you go, the momentum's gone. But there's something about England that I think the Test team are better than they were 2 years ago. I think they're on a better pathway. They've won some good series. South Africa, they beat the West Indies, Pakistan, won in Sri Lanka. They've come up against India away from home and they've been hammered, but that generally happens to most teams. But I do think they're on a pathway of development and getting better and better. But if you ask me one team to watch in the world, and I do because I work, obviously, watching the England team, they are the best team to watch because they do give drama. And the dramas either of the extent of brilliant or absolute garbage. And I like that. I actually like that in a team. It's like the Newcastle team of Kevin Keegan's era, where they just went for it. And that's very similar to what English cricket has got at the minute. They've got a group of players that they just go for it. You know, I think in Test cricket, they try and play a little bit of the traditional game, which is the right way. But I still feel they've got that kind of itch in the back of their mind that they just want to continuously go for it, which makes them very watchable. So whatever happens this summer, England have to start winning. Those batsmen have to start getting runs, because the big challenge later on in the year is the Ashes. And to win in Australia, you've got to get a consistent batting lineup, getting plenty of runs, and then obviously hope that your bowlers can get you 20 wickets.
I mean, you like watching a side like England with all the drama. You never know what's going to happen, but you wouldn't want to captain that side, would you?
That'd be a good laugh. I'd like to captain any team with Ben Stokes in it. Joss Butler, Jimmy Anderson, Stuart Broad. I mean, these are players that are up there with greatness. Joe Root himself. I think sometimes we look too far back in sport, and people will say, oh, back in the day, we used to prepare so many players. Well, if you look back at the last 15 to 17 years of English cricket, I don't think there's ever been a more successful time. We've won a T20 World Cup, we've won a 50-over World Cup, we've won many Ashes series. We've developed Jimmy Anderson, Stuart Broad, Joe Root, Alistair Cook, Ben Stokes. They'll be up there with the greatest players that England have ever produced. But we do like to talk back in the day. I heard a pundit saying there, but we don't prepare captains like we used to. I'm going, what do you mean we don't prepare captains like we used to? So the captains used to get so much captaincy in county cricket and then come through and be the England captain. I'm going, wait a minute. Joe Root's one win away from being the most successful captain ever. I never captained my county. I managed to kind of do okay in the end. And, I think we do look back as if it was all great back in the day. Let's be honest, cricket back in the day was a great spectacle because it was different. And I believe now cricket is still a great spectacle, but it's different to what it was played back in the 70s and 80s. It's still the great game that I call it. But yeah, they're entertaining, Mark. I think the green room are in for a treat this summer, because you always strap yourself to your seats when England are playing. You're never quite sure what's going to happen.
And they are comfy seats in the green room. I'll get on to the green room in a moment, but I've got to ask you about, you mentioned a couple of the superstar names in the England team, but what about the other protagonists this summer? And I'm talking also about the opposition players. It's a sort of two-part question, this. England emerging players, of all those players who didn't do so well over the winter, who might emerge as a true superstar over the next 12 to 18 months? And also include the opposition in that. Who are you most looking forward to catching up with over the summer?
The obvious ones from an Indian perspective is Virat Kohli, undoubtedly the best player across all the formats. I like Shubman Gill as a young player for India. I think he's going to be a superstar in the future. Rishabh Pant, I think he is the Adam Gilchrist, MS Dhoni of this era. A wicketkeeper batsman that has one school of thought when he goes out to bat. Watch ball, try and twat it. That's what he does. That's all he kind of thinks about, which is always entertaining. But he's also got quite a good cricket brain on him. He's now captaining his IPL franchise at Delhi, which will give him a little bit more leadership qualities. So those three really. Bumrah as a bowler, I don't think there's many better in terms of a bowler, skill levels, swings, seam, pace, that action with his arms in the air, remarkable. That's from an Indian perspective. There's so many names you could mention, but I'll pinpoint those. From an England perspective, I think I'll look at Ollie Pope. Ollie Pope looks to have everything. He looks to have the game. He looks to have the kind of game that could be very similar to what Joe Root has done in the last 10 years. He looks the one in English cricket that really could be a world-class performer. He's had a stop-start kind of start to his Test career because of injuries in and out of the side. Picked up another injury in the winter. He started well for Surrey this summer, and this is the summer that he has to go on and get 200s, 2 or 300s in the summer. 2 tests against New Zealand, 5 against India, because he needs form and he needs a bit of confidence to go down to Australia for the first time. To play Australia in Australia, as a younger player, and he won't have played that many tests by the time he gets there. I do think he needs to arrive there knowing that his place in the side is absolutely rock solid. So he looks the one to me. There's one left wing, I would say. I think Bracey from Gloucestershire looks a player that hasn't played yet but could. and he might sneak into the side. I would think that Rory Burns, Zach Crawley and Dom Sibley will be the top three, but if any one of those three struggles, they may turn to Bracey of Gloucester. I think he looks a really good prospect, but pretty much as it is, I mean, the old senior core are the ones that you have to look for when you're playing against the best teams, and India are that. So the Anderson Broad combination, Jofra, Josh Butler, Joe Root, Ben Stokes, that real senior core of the side will have to operate successfully if they're going to beat India.
Do you have any doubt that Anderson Broad, bearing in mind, you know, they are a little bit longer in the tooth than some in that side, can make it through to the Ashes?
Yeah, I think they will now, yeah.
There's no doubt in your mind that they'll be in good shape and delivering what they need to deliver to win an Ashes series?
Whether they can deliver enough to win is a debate. I think they'll certainly be there, and I think England will manage the calendar and the 7 test matches between now and the Ashes to make sure that they are there. I don't think both of them will play together. I think they'll go with one, particularly in Brisbane. They may play together in the pink ball game in Adelaide. They may put them together for that one game. Other than that, I can't see Stuart and Jimmy playing too much together. And I think throughout this summer, I don't know if they'll play together. I think they'll try and play one or the other every test match. England have got a stock of bowlers. You've got Chris Woakes, you've got Jofra Archer, you've got Mark Wood, Sam Curran. You know, they've got so many. Ollie Stone, he bowled nicely in that test match in India. And I think England will try and manage the stock to make sure that by the time they get to Australia, they'll just want a full pack of bowlers fit. And to get to that level, I think they'll just have to carefully manage the summer. And Jimmy, how old is he? 40 odd? Is he 40? Yeah, I mean, he's incredible. I mean, talking about that wine behind me, he is the wine, isn't he, of cricket? He just seems to get better and better, more skillful, more consistent. Yeah, so they'll certainly be there, but I just don't think they'll play together. And it's just that, have they got enough England to get the 20 wickets? Have they got enough to get the runs? Have they got enough to get the 20 wickets? Surely they've got to do better than the last 2 times where it's been a bit of a pummeling, 4-0, 5-0 the last 2 times to Australia. Surely England are going to make it a bit more competitive.
Well done on bringing it back to the red wine, by the way. That took some skill of your interviewee technique. But are you just quickly on that? Are you a fan of this rest and rotation policy? I mean, it's such a busy summer. You can understand why they do it. It's been such a busy winter as well. But are you on board with that? Do you think it's necessary?
I wasn't on board in the winter, no. And I'll explain why. I believe that when you go to India for a test series, even in a pandemic, you've got to manage your squad to make sure that those 4 test matches against India in their own backyard, when you're trying to build a test team, and this test team has been rebuilt from 2019. You've got to remember Australia took the Ashes back here. It's the first time they've taken them back from the UK since 2001. And all the kind of eggs in English cricket after the World Cup was, right, we need to get those Ashes back. So it really disappointed me that they didn't pinpoint those 4 tests against India, making sure they had their best players available for every single one of those 4 games. If that meant they missed 2 tests against Sri Lanka, if that meant they missed a one-day series against India and India, so be it. But the 4 tests against India, in my eyes, should have been the pinnacle of the winter. England decided to swap and change, and they got a pummeling. They got a hammering. Whether that'll be looked upon as meaning nothing in a few months because the conditions were completely different to what they're going to face in Australia, you could argue that. But I believe when you're building a team, you've got to go through all the experiences as a team. And sometimes an experience of being beaten is actually a decent experience because you kind of galvanise each other. You look at each other and go, right, what went wrong? How can we improve? What were you like in your mentality, technique? And you get better for it. When you've not had that experience, you know, I'm not too sure how the cohesiveness of a team can come together when you just kind of, all right, we'll play them all together when we get back to the UK with the Duke balls and it's swinging around and we'll win there. Well, but you've not gone through the tough times. You need to go through the tough times, I believe, as a team. So, yeah, I didn't agree with that at all. I don't agree at all with the fact the ECB are going to allow the players to play the full IPL and potentially miss 2 tests against New Zealand. I just can't get that in my head. You know, I can't understand how, you know, you own the players, really. You give them a central contract. You're still allowing them to go and play in a franchise tournament. You know, why not bring them back May the 20th? That means that they would have played at least the majority of the IPL, a lot more than any other year. get them back to the UK and make sure that they're playing those 2 test matches against New Zealand. So disappointing that they're not going to allow that. There you go. There's my rant. My rant is over. But yeah, I know there's changing times in all sports, but call me a dinosaur or a traditionalist. I don't quite give a hoot. When England are playing, I believe England should be picking their best players. Particularly the first test of the summer against New Zealand at Lords. No one can argue with me that, and I would probably drink that bottle of red and many more and get very, very irate and drunk talking to someone if they said, no, it's the right decision for an England player not to be playing the first test match at Lords. That's me just thinking that England cricket should come first, particularly when you're giving someone a contract. But they've made their call, and I guess I'll have to drink that bottle of red and accept it.
That was some rant, by the way. Congratulations. And I thought it had ended, and then you had another go at it.
Yeah,
that obviously that rankles with you, and that's obviously it's very clear to hear that. But let's go back to the green room, because you did mention the green room, and of course you're a green room ambassador, and people will be able to see, our green room guests will be able to see you at the Oval for that Sri Lankan one-day international, and also for the Indian test, which I can't wait to see that in the beginning of September. But with the exception of my company, what do you enjoy most about being in the green room?
Well, to be fair, the Sri Lankan one day, I'm not even working on the broadcast side of things that day, so that could get very messy. That'll be probably my first green room experience of not having to nip upstairs to try and commentate. So that's going to be a good day. Everything, for one, you've got the cricket, you've got the Oval, which, from the green room, the visual there, just sat on those, you mentioned the comfy chairs. You feel like you're on the pitch. I think the Oval is such a great spectacle for the fans. And then you've got booze, which always adds to the occasion. You've got good people. Well, one or two are in that room that are quite good. One or two that aren't. But you've just got to accept that and put them to one side. I think fun. Sport, unfortunately, sport has become far too serious. And I think the green room is a place where you can actually go back to what sport is about. A bit of banter, a bit of a crack. You have a few drinks, you watch the game. Yeah, you get a bit disappointed if your team don't win, but you kind of soon get over that with a couple of pints.
There you go. That's about as good a sales pitch as I've ever heard for the green room. So thank you, Michael, for being so on message. But I know that came from the heart as well. But look, I'm really looking forward to seeing you for that first Sri Lankan one-day international, and obviously for the test against India as well. So have a good summer. Drink that red wine. Don't get too irate about your bugbears, because it's not good for the the blood pressure and all of that kind of stuff.
Don't worry, I'm over it already. I just have to kind of get on my off my Geoffrey Boycott long run when I hear that an England player won't be playing in that first test at Lords on June the 2nd. I'm like, oh come on, the game's not come to that, has it?
I think there'll be a lot of people sharing your views and sympathising with the rant. Anyway, look, it looks like you're in Lycra. You have to do a spinning class or something.
No, I've got a trendy T-shirt on. This is like, it's got a hole in it as well. That's the new cool, isn't it?
Yeah, well, yeah. God, thank you for making an effort. Thank you for making an effort for the green room today. Cheers, Michael. See you soon.
Cheers.